All right, we've started the recording.
Wait.
Show in the tile. Oh, now we're side by side, and we've got the same background.
Oh, so it's working. It's recording.
Yeah, we're recording. I don't know if it's picking you up.
I'll let them guess. I'll let them guess by mouth movements, but I don't think that'll actually help at all. So,
is there any way I could put like subtitles?
so it's 10 o'clock on 8th of April. Fucking that's gone fast. Well,
It's fantastic.
silent worker. Silent worker. Done that.
I've got the subtitles working.
But even worse, even fucking better now. It will come with complete bollocks, won't it?
Oh yeah, but it's picked you up terribly.
Great, that's fantastic. So, silent worker, you've just done it.
Oh yeah, I did do that. I've forgotten to make a video beforehand, but here we are. I've had a haircut since we last spoke.
Well, like proper new you. Obviously, with a new total crossing 800. Did you cross the 800 kilo barrier last time? Did you?
Nah,
it was just shy of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is 792 last time.
Hmm.
So this time being 815, which is going to be difficult for me to remember. Like the number's easy to remember, but like when people ask me what my total is, I've always had to start with a 7 for like the last 5 years.
It's weird. Now it's like when people obviously literally like a new year, and it's like they can't remember the year, and it's like, it's a 2. It starts with an 8, doesn't it? So I couldn't, when I saw that, I was not surprised at any of that. I thought, yeah, but then again, when I spoke to you last time, I remember, I can't remember you having any sort of expectation in mind. I think you just went, like, let's go, let's have a crack over meat, and then you get these numbers. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think it's a huge shift in mindset, to be honest, going into comps from what I used to do, which is I think what a lot of people do. Like you get really focused on numbers. You're like, right, like all my training has led up to these exact numbers, and you're not giving yourself any room for, what if something goes wrong on the day? What if you react badly to the cut? Like I always travel for my comps. Like I'm going over to Ireland, so like that has an impact on most people. But I'm used to it now, so like I've got an idea of the impact, if any. But yeah, you just don't leave yourself any room for any errors. Like, what if the judges make a certain call? What if you didn't sleep well? Like any of that stuff. So venue could be cold, which it was, to be fair. So that I had if I have a perfect day, because this is how I look at it now. If I have a perfect day, these are the numbers that would be really nice to hit.
Right.
And then, but that's if it's a perfect day, and perfect days don't always happen.
Well, I'd argue they never really do exist. You can always. It's like obviously the conversations that you have with any powerlifters that you meet in the same gym as you train at, and they'll go on about trying to minimize externalities or what other things, but it's just like life just goes on. And I think it's such a basic thing to go off, but it's like people choose to do this sport, and therefore obviously you can't rely on the perfect thing. You just got to go out, have some fun, just do it, and then the numbers will speak for themselves. And in your case, that absolutely happened. Like, holy moly!
Yeah, no, like the numbers that I did hit were those perfect day numbers are going to be these, and then I hit them, and I was like, oh, wow. And it was people coming back being like, oh, there was more kilos there. I'm like, there weirdly was. Yeah, I didn't expect that. So it's just like more information for next time.
It's so seeing obviously you got 280 squat. Remember top of my head from what I watched of it, 280 squat, 205 bench, and 330 deadlift, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've really got to try and up that. I've got some. I've really got to try and try and absolutely hammer that home.
Oh, what have you got? 10 weeks?
God, hang on. So July. So hang on. So early July. It must be
start of July.
It has to be. Yeah. No. Literally, it's probably 10 weeks now. Yeah. But I've got the last. So I've got week 4 to finish this week, and then another block. I'm going to deload because I'm going to be on the mic and helping out at juniors for the whole week, and then taper. No, sorry. And then I think it's like another block, and then a taper, and then we hit hit the slam and just go. But I mean, obviously, so obviously back to obviously silent work. I mean, where was it actually held? I didn't actually, because I spoke to someone other than yourself, and they told me where it was, but I just couldn't remember where it was.
It was in the Marina Market in Cork.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh, it was in Ireland. Oh, right, okay. Because
Yeah.
I don't know why someone said it was France. It must have been obviously because there were two of them, so I just thought France straight away. But wasn't it? Was it just France and Ireland, or was there a little contingent of others as well?
Yeah, there were some British people in there. So Dylan Nelson came, and Liv Price was there as well. So they were
Yeah.
on like the French team, but they are British. Like, so it was actually really nice. Like, we got custom T-shirts, all the primetime athletes.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so like the Irish members had a green T-shirt.
Yeah.
The French ones had like a blue one with France written on it, and then the British had a blue T-shirt with like a GBR on it.
Nice.
And that was like a really nice touch.
No, of course. I mean, it sort of brings it home. Obviously, sort of Tri of Nations. Really, I mean, obviously, everyone, if you put obviously Britain in front of a lot of them, I think everybody would be expecting this massive load of it. But I think it's always been sort of France and Ireland. Because I remember this being in the past, because you've got Joseph Diva, who's competed for France before, obviously, and he trains in Pure Muscles, and then you've got Durans, who's obviously comment on the same thing, and again, that's how I know of its existence. And then when obviously I spoke to you about it, I was like, oh yeah, you're competing in this.
Yeah, no, I think it was quite like a fun, unique comp in terms of like that team element. Like I've always coming from a rugby background, the only thing I really miss about rugby is the team element.
Oh, me too, all day.
Like, yeah, like I don't necessarily miss most of the other stuff, but I miss the team element, like working for other people, not just yourself. And then with this being a team comp, where I think it was like they called the Irish team Team Viper for some reason, and they called the French British team Team Rune Tech, right? So you imagine that you got these two teams, and it was average GL across like in each team. So you got men and women. It was mixed two teams. Average GL, that's who won the team points.
Right.
French
that's
won.
Did you guys win?
No, the French won.
Oh, shame.
Shame, yeah.
Who else was in the 105 class?
So there was two people in the 105. It was me and one of the other Irish lads, Scott Dean.
All right.
So like his best GL as a 105 is 100. Mine was 100. So it's like sound. But we had the highest GL like in the team.
Wow.
In the Irish team. 100.
So that,
like basically
it was like obviously it was all to play for then, obviously, from your standpoint of just actually going in and just hitting the heaviest that you can.
Yeah, so like, I've not done 100 as a 105. My 100 was as a 93.
Oh yeah, I think I remember in the past seeing obviously at 93.
Yeah,
you get 100 GL.
And then the French team, they had maybe like 3 people who were like 105 GL already going into it. So, if you were looking at averages here, they've already got the higher end. And then I think they had some people lower than our lowest GL. So it's like, oh, maybe. But I think the team lost by like 4 GL points on average, which is quite a few GL points.
It's a real, that must be a real toughie to actually work with, because you've really got to play to your strengths here. I mean, but then I had a chat with a lad the other day in Pure Muscles about this, and he said that, and again, I'd have to look at the mathematics behind it and obviously how it's worked out, but supposedly it benefits people at sort of higher body weights, as I've been told, and I didn't really sort of think of this, because this guy's a 66 kilo lifter. We have a discussion about it, and I thought to myself, it's like, if that's the case, and you sort of want those more heavyweight athletes to be in there, or obviously you're going to have to look at one weight class. I mean, unless you know that it does prioritize heavyweights, and just utilize them big time when they've got big GL, so that obviously you can just, really squeeze out all the everything for the win.
I don't know. Like I hear a lot about people with the different formulas. You got dots, you got Wilks, you got GL. Like those are like probably the three most common ones. And then everyone picks fault with like, this is better for heavyweight men. This one's better for middleweight women. Like this one's better for the lightweight. Like no one. I don't think you can really make a formula that works for everybody.
No,
Or
of course.
or like the time of which the formula is created, the stand because I think it's kind of based on trying to make it a comparable. You can compare a 66 man to an 84 plus woman
Yeah.
in some way. Like I think that's the aim of it. But the time of which the formulas are created, it could be a time where the 74s are absolutely smashing it. So to try and compare a really high quality class to maybe the 69 women are doing terribly at the time in comparison. And so to try and make a formula that, puts them on some sort of equal pedestal must be really difficult. And then if that standards change, people could be like, oh, no, like now it favors the women because at the time of it being made, they weren't very good.
No, but I think it's quite unique that actually that team element comes into GL, because I mean the only other team comp that I'd say obviously I know about obviously is more of an local to you, and obviously me when I come home away from London is obviously going to be a team comp that STG, but that's obviously based on each lift, and obviously the restrictions on that with the fact of like one person does one person does another, and obviously it's mixed across the board as well, and that's the only way in which you can actually have like a team comp otherwise, other than per se obviously when you go to if you were to see obviously people get outright wins for like internationals, like and obviously Europe's or Worlds or Asia's obviously powerlifting comp, and then obviously, but that's not even based on GL, so that's really unique. I never even knew that Silent Worker was based upon that.
Sorry, I was just reading the subtitles. It doesn't like the word powerlifting. It's kind of like, the Palestine comp.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, no, back to your point though. So this was the first. So yeah, like super training do a team comp in terms of one person does each lift and that is your team.
Yeah.
This silent worker comp was the first silent worker comp outside of France, and it was
Really?
also
Wow.
yeah, and it was also the first one where it was like the team element of team. Let's just say Team Ireland versus Team France, right?
Right.
I think it because it keeps the element of it being a powerlifting competition where everybody does all three lifts and they do as best they can.
Yeah.
And I think because you're right, like Worlds, Euros, Western Euros, Asias, they all have a team element, like team points element to it, whether it's um, whether it is like top five from each team's average GL, whether because I think that's how Westerns do it. Whether it's placings give you points, like if you come first, you get 12. I think that's how Worlds do it, which is interesting how they have different ways of calculating team points. But yeah, so those are team elements. But when competing at those events, like I've only done Westerns, but I can't like speak for how it is for Worlds. It doesn't necessarily feel like it's a team comp though. Like that's never really the priority. It's the priority
No.
is put largely on like your individual performance. So to have this silent worker version where it's average of the whole team's GL, not just the top five, and it's
Yeah.
men and women, I think that makes it more team based, and also the having the special t-shirts and there being a prime time spot versus because there was also just an open going on, on the morning of the Saturday and then the whole of Sunday. There was
Right.
it was just like your normal open comp,
Yeah.
which didn't contribute to the team. But just circling back slightly to people saying, "Oh, the GL points favors heavier lifters. Again, neither of us have looked at the maths, but
No.
the highest GL in the prime time was by a 74 and an 83. And then there was another lad I think was also like medium to lower weight. So
I think I've seen this as well in the past, because I remember obviously when it was Christmas, obviously at Super Train, and I remember that being on the mic, and the guy who won it, I think, was Lee Kopp, for the men's, and he's an 83, and I think the top three were 83, 93, and I'm pretty certain the third was a 105. So it's literally gone this descending order, where sort of, again, we've not looked to the mathematics or what formula actually goes into making GL. I mean, it's such a big standard to use, because once you hit that gracious 3 digits, it's like holy moly, that's huge. I mean, obviously you've surpassed that twice in 2 classes. Hopefully next meet I'll be able to obviously run past it as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But it's one of those ones where I think it almost like knocks your total out of the park, where some people would just go, yeah, I want to hit like a 900 kilo total at 120, and they think like, yeah, but how? And then some people ask, yeah, but obviously comparing body weights, like how strong are you, per se, like pound for pound, or however it's measured, I don't bleed know. And I think a lot of people just get very het up about it, rather than just getting the raw numbers, and just getting those, and then it's like we've got one lad whom I train with called Hafiz Johari. He's Lebanese fellow train with. If I say anything nice about here outside of him, we'll be losing all our rivalry between us. So I hope he never sees this. But he, like, for example, like he's got an extremely high GL income. He'll definitely have 183, and nice. It's like he'll look at, like, what I've noticed about him, and he'll look at like chipping away at obviously each individual lift. I think, well, it's a smart move, but it's like, surely you just want a big total, mate. Like, that's it. Like, the GL stuff just shouldn't matter. You just want that big total, because, again, I think powerlifters are capable of a massive total. They get run into the ground with, obviously, like the pound for pound stuff, because it's like an objective sort of strength as well as a total.
Yeah, and I mean, all I can really say about that is, of course, like, all of these formulas are some sort of display of body weight compared to total. Like, that's all of them would have different numbers. So I was actually looking at, right, well, I do want to get 100 GL again, like, because I did it as a 93. What total do I need? So I had 100.09 as a 93, and that was with a 762.5 total, and I weighed, I think, 92 point something, maybe. Right. I was like, cool. And then I went on the little calculator. I was like, right, if I weigh 104.8, like a pretty standard 105 weight, what total do I need? And I needed 810 to get exactly the same GL, like 100.09. I was like, cool. That's pretty cool. Like, getting exactly the same number in the weight class above. It was a while since I did that 100 GL as a 93. I did some comps afterwards and they didn't go as well. But I think this should show people that I'm literally, based on GL, I'm literally as good now as a 105 as I was a 93. I've not got worse.
No, it's funny, because then it comes into question. Obviously, you have to unpack GL, and then people will start to think, well, obviously, if your body weight goes up and you go up a weight class, you'll be stronger. We've discussed this. We said, for, when I started 93s, I mean, the only 2 comps I did as a 93, I had not the slightest clue about powerlifting. It was my coach who obviously knew everything about it, and it comes from that. And as you as a 93, I mean, I can recall that, I remember obviously seeing you a while back that you did. Oh, what was it? I remember it was British Juniors in 2021. I remember that was my first, obviously, coming to notice to me, and and then obviously I don't know when you made the switch to go 105s. I naturally just fell into just going to it. I went, oh, fuck it, what's the point? You just got to, you're not gonna. I think like people take a look at some people's heights now, like, yeah, you're far too slim to be in that category. That you need to put some muscle on and go with it. And GL gets affected because you won't progress maybe as fast as your body weight does. And again, I don't whatever factors mean that either it goes slower. Or for example, your total doesn't go up as fast as the progress of your body weight, and then obviously your G will be worse. Which is quite funny because people will just assume it just gets better when sometimes it doesn't. I mean, I'd always say to people, if they're sort of filled out their class, go up another one. But it's a personal choice at the end of the day, whether or not those people want to do that or whatnot is entirely up to them. But obviously, I'd always say all day, I mean, I feel way better as a 105 than ever as 93. Like the same things that you discussed. I mean, there's no issues with your tendons, your ligaments. You're objectively stronger. You recover better. It's just it just seems like it's just like calling out for people to do it.
No, I mean, I've obviously still had niggles and injuries, like going into Nats, like my back was ruined, but we managed that. Going into this, I had a little bit of hip pain, like we managed that. I'm not saying you go up a weight class and you'll never be injured. Like neither of us saying that. But yeah, I think the point of this GL stuff is like you can either total the same and reduce your body weight, you'll get a higher GL. You can weigh the same, you can lift more, you get a higher GL. And yeah, like when you go up a weight class, you don't have to do it immediately. No one said be a 93 in February and then by April you should be weighing 105. No. Like this is the first comp as a 105 I've had to do any sort of manipulation to come back down. I was like 105.5 a week out, and then we did some like fiber manipulation, and weighed in at 104.35.
Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, so that was your body weight at Silent Worker then?
Yeah, like my body weight at Silent Worker was 104.35. It's the heaviest as a 105 I've been. Nationals in November, I was 103 something. I did my first comp as a 105 in July last year. I was 101 point something. Like, it's taken me a while to get here. And then before July, I did nationals as a 93. And again, in November the previous year. And there I was like 91.8, which was a mistake. But still, like, like it's taken me nearly over a year to actually have to cut into the 105s, and this has been my most successful comp.
Well, that's one that, I mean, obviously everyone would say that. I think obviously once you fill that weight class, there's inevitably a cut that's going to happen, because obviously you are going to go above it. I mean, it's, to sort of fill it out fully, there is going to be a slight cut before it for most people that fill out a class. I mean, it would be a beyond a miracle if anyone in the morning literally went on the scales and said it's 104.9. And I think, holy moly, that's insane if you're literally weighing at that. When you walk into it, there are several people that I've noticed that will always cut. There are several people who can just literally just walk in. They can have some scram before they walk it, before they step on the scale and be like, "Yep, I'm at a good body weight. So let's get it rolling." It's with body weight. I think it's a very tough one for a lot of powerlifters to know how to do right. Because like for me, for example, you said 103? You were weighing 104.35. Is that right?
Yeah.
So the other week I weighed in. This was in the evening. I was about 103. And that's obviously with clothes on in the evening, pretty much eating like 3/4. Obviously what I did today, I was training in the evening as well, and obviously stepped on scale with obviously clothes obviously me the tallest lifts on obviously for me bench, and obviously I know obviously there's probably more room to fill out but some people, there's inevitably going to be that sort of sort of cut, but I think filling out a weight class can truly show obviously what lays ahead for you. It doesn't show full potential, but it shows what can now lay ahead for you. Like obviously you've acclimatized to the class now.
Yeah, I think like the next comp I'll do will probably involve like a slightly bigger cut because I'll be getting a bit heavier between now and then. But it, it, it comes with experience. Like at no point are we saying like a novice should be looking at what we're doing and be like, yeah, I'm going to do that necessarily. Like the general advice for a novice is like, don't cut into comps. Like whatever you weigh in at, just go and compete. And the reasons are completely different. You know, like I'm cutting into this comp because because I would technically be in the 120s even if I weighed 105.5.
Yeah.
Like not the weight, not wouldn't have been great for GL points on the day, which was the team element, which was what I was focused on. Would have been fine for my total and my performance. Like I wouldn't have had to have cut. There wouldn't be any risk of, performance coming down with that. But it's like the competitive side of things, being in the prime time slot and like needing the higher GL for the team. Whereas most people, you're not competing in that environment, and the priority is to preserve performance and just see if you like it. If you've done less than 5 comps, probably don't be looking at like GL or anything like that. Just focus on like building that total up.
I think that's actually a very good statement. I think that needs to be plastered for a lot of the newer lifters, because I think even and you use 5 as a good standard for, you should be focusing on just getting a total and obviously getting the numbers up rather than GL, because people aren't pretty much with 5 comps under the belt going to be in these environments. I mean, you've competed like quite a lot compared to most people. I've only competed 3 times, like quite literally. I mean, yeah, I'll be doing my training in and out, and I've been doing it for a bit, but obviously I've, like after my second meet, I joined the Met, and the Met obviously, it takes over quite a lot, and obviously, it's literally just shy of 1 year on, I'll be competing, and then even I'm like laughing about GL and whatnot. I'm just like, bro, I was like, bro, I haven't even got a national singlet, so what can I fucking say? You've got that singlet, I ain't got that. So, I think for a lot of those novice lifters, it's one of those ones where I think they look at everyone else and they think you think obviously by the raw numbers, like you're not going to be touching that total yet. Shouldn't say you can, but obviously like right now you just need to build into that. And I mean, as a question, sort of off topic for it, do you tell your lifters that? Do you tell your clients that?
Yeah, like absolutely. I'm never advising a cut, especially very new lifters. The trouble comes when they'll say, "Oh yeah, I entered like the 57s." I'm like, "Okay, what do you weigh now?" 60. Why did you do that? You don't weigh 57, but you weigh 60, so you should have entered the 63s. They're like, "Yeah, but I wanted to do 57s because the qualifying total is lower and stuff." It's like, come on, you would have been stronger not having. Now we don't have to cut 3 kilos, which is like 5% of your body weight, which is a reasonably sized cut.
Well, it's one of those ones, I think, obviously, because the weight class obviously for men's and women's, obviously with women's there's smaller fractions between it, and obviously people would say, oh, they're for the cuts are easy, but like, whether or not it's easy should not be a factor. It should be the fact of like, for example, obviously in your case when you say the 57s and 63s, someone at 60 and they say, oh, I'm going to go 57, I'm going to enter 57. It's like still, regardless of the raw number as to how much you lose, it doesn't matter. You still are going to lose some strength. Obviously, I mean, it makes it a bit easier for perhaps obviously the women's lifters to maybe do that. Again, obviously, this is that's up to debate. I mean, I'm not one on biology and obviously and cutting or whatnot. But I just think as an objective thing, again, the five comps on less than 5 comps under your belt or equal to 5, and thinking about, GL and not filling out a class is actually a very smart statement. I think that should apply to every lifter, whether that's a man or woman. Just fill out that damn class.
Yeah, like I don't think the weight class should be of concern because there are so many other things to think about when you haven't even done five comps. Like, are you enjoying yourself? Do you know what kind of mindset you want when you go into it? Do you know what you want from your coach in terms of hype? Like, are you still missing lifts on commands or standards? Like those, it doesn't matter what weight class you're in when you bomb out on squats for not hitting depth. Like, well done,
Yeah,
you've got zero GL for this comp. Cool.
yeah,
You know, like,
scary.
was it useful of you to cut down that 5% body weight just to not get any lifts? Whereas if you'd not saying you would have necessarily got them if you didn't cut, but now you've cut and you missed. Like that
Yeah,
was a lot of effort you wasted there.
I think it's quite hard to actually say this to a lot of um I think it's quite hard to say this to a lot of lifters because I think in powerlifting, I think there's a general because powerlifting's changed an awful lot in terms of how it was viewed, let's say back in like the mid 2010s to like now. Because back in the mid 2010s, if you were to ask someone about powerlifting, you'd expect like these big, humongous, dudes, obviously, who men and women, obviously, who were really strong, but like obviously like a big teddy bear sort of character, and that was sort of the stereotype that was put on it, like very much like strongman. But now we're seeing actually that it's become a lot more in terms of leanness as well. Like you're seeing, obviously, you've got all these weight classes, and you've got some absolute hulks of people holding a lot of muscle mass on their frame, and they I think obviously it's powerlifting's moved on from that, whether or not body image or not. I mean, we're powerlifters for goodness sake. I mean, we should be just celebrating, everybody in this sport. We should obviously be sort of holding up everybody. Like, look, doesn't matter on it. All that's going to matter on that day is the numbers you hit. Are you happy with that 9 for 9 that you got? Are you happy with that total you got? Did you have a good meet? Did your coach run it properly? And I think that's one of the things that sort of has changed on sort of on body weight, if anything, and obviously the image around powerlifting per se. Not that it matters. I mean, all that matters at the end of the day. Did you go 9 for 9? 9 for 9? Did you get the qualifying total you want? Did you want your total? And were there good calls made on the day? And actually the mindset going into it, and they're very basic principles that people just forget.
Yeah, like enjoying it is probably way more important than because like if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it again. And
No,
the idea to do really well is to do it for a long time. Now we've got a situation here where like you've only done 3 comps and I've done like 20, probably more. And we're like totaling very similar numbers. But I think
noob versus experienced.
like the fact comes in is like it's not like you haven't trained before and we're similar ages. Like I think we've got maybe a similar training age and we're similar biological age. So that's what's impacted the fact that our totals are similar.
Yeah.
Like people could just look at it and be like, oh, JP's only been training for 3 years. It's like, nah, he's not.
No. I had to like that's one of the things I think that people get really het up on. And I think because powerlifting now, I had a chat with someone about this the other day, and he said like a lot of these young lads nowadays, a lot of people who are getting into it are straight up going into powerlifting. They're having no sport background. They're straight up just touching that bar and they're doing it. And, great. I mean, it gets you acclimatized very fast, but I don't. It's like we've got rugby backgrounds, for example. I've got obviously a track background as well, obviously in the past, and obviously cross country and whatnot, like before I touched on that touching away.
I think it's crazy. We both have basically like the same background, but I didn't do track.
And I think for it's usually like 3,000 steeplechase, like 1,500 and all that. Yeah, used to do all that stuff. Yeah. And then I went to like, and then I touched like, and then I played rugby a bit more extensively, and then I went into powerlifting and strongman. And strongman obviously I only touched once a blue bloody moon, but it's one of those things where a lot of people are touching like straight into it, and what's happening is they're going like, oh, I've only been training for like a year or whatnot. It's like, well, fantastic. Like, do you want a medal? Like, but I noticed a lot of the time that a lot of people who go into powerlifting straight off the bat with not much sort of experience of touching, even messing around with the weights, like quite a lot of lads did before obviously the advent of obviously solid coaching such as yourself offers. that a lot of people just messed around with it, found a coach, and then went to powerlifting. And a lot of the time, some of these guys get injured. Like a lot of these guys just, they don't have that sort of structural integrity to keep up with the demands of it.
Yeah, I think there's like a few things there because there's a lot of discipline that like rugby teaches you that you wouldn't like you didn't find that in running the 3,000 meter steeplechase. Like any discipline things you would probably like I did athletics as well. I was doing throwing events. Sure,
Oh, right, yeah.
you got the discipline of like respect the ref, if they say it's out or whatever, it is what it is. But I found a lot more divas in athletics than I did in rugby,
It's so funny.
Um,
I think surely that could be down to individualism, though. I mean, obviously, there's maybe. I mean, that's my first thought in my head.
yeah, maybe because yeah, powerlifting being an individual sport in terms of you show up on the platform is equally track and field is an individual sport because you show up on the track or the field. Yes, you got your coach. Yes, you probably have a nutritionist. You got other people you train with. There's the team element there. But rugby is if you annoy the ref, the whole team gets penalised, and then the whole team penalise you later, or like
Yeah.
the coach or whatever. So there's the respect of like, right, I'm not going to be a dick because I'm going to look after my teammates.
Yeah.
But yeah, for people that come into like an individual sport immediately, they don't probably have that. There's also the physiological training side that we've had in terms of like running for hours, hitting people, getting hit. There's a slight robustness and also probably like a slight injury thing that we're used to pretending not to be injured rather
Oh,
than
yeah.
pretending to be injured. And then it comes into powerlifting and we're pushing through probably more than we need to in certain niggles. But
It's one of those. Well, it's one of those ones where but for me, like I've never had any big injuries to touch wood since obviously touching powerlifting, and I've never really had to worry about much. But I think to myself sometimes, like I hear how like every other lifter it seems has some injury going on, and I'm just thinking to myself like, how's this robustness like coming in? Like as I say, obviously with the rugby background, we'll share that obviously we're used to just getting obviously completely slammed out of nowhere and you just have to adapt. And obviously there's that 80 minutes on a field, maybe more, where you just get repeatedly just obviously, sprinting at short bursts, hitting the breakdown and whatnot. And I found that obviously that was quite helpful in making just obviously just shrugging off in an injury, because I think a lot of people just obviously once anything that presents an injury comes in, they straight away just think, oh, they'll tell my coach, oh, I'm injured, I need to adapt this. It's like, well, actually a lot of the time you can work through the pain of some things. I'm not advising people that they should just obviously ignore stuff. I mean, for God's sake, I wouldn't give any advice. I shave my hair obviously when I got a hairline, so what advice can I give? But it's one of the ones where I think, I've had the only thing I've had as an injury was like a slight hamstring tear ages ago, where I touched obviously on a week one. I did some standing hamstring curl, like a single leg one. Did it. I was like, fuck. And then I texted Stefan and said, yeah, like I've just done my hamstring. And he was like, oh, is that? Well, he said, just work through it. And I was like, oh, work through it. I'm actually all right. And he went, yeah. I was like, it wasn't that bad, was it?
yeah, like I think it's quite a perspective thing. So powerlifting's got one of like the lowest injury rates in any sport. It's something like 1.2 per 1,000 hours. So like for every 1,000
Wow.
hours you do powerlifting, you're gonna get one injury probably. Most people. Whereas rugby, you're looking at like 5 or 6, probably more. I
Yeah.
can't remember the stats. I wouldn't be surprised if it was closer to like 12. But
Oh,
still,
yeah.
there's also the definition of what is an injury. An injury is something that stops you from training. The fact that
Yeah.
most of the time it's like, oh, my shoulder hurts. Like it's not injured, it hurts. You can still train around it massively. And, if it hurts for more than a week, maybe go see a physio about it. See why it hurts. Fix that. Like it's easily solved. Whereas it's I saw a reel on Instagram from a physio and it was, if your pet's ill, you take it to the vet. If your car breaks down, you take it to the mechanics. If you're not feeling well, well, you'll wait a week. you'll try some home remedies, you'll Google it, you'll ask ChatGPT, you'll like all these other things, you will take them straight to the professional. But when it comes to yourself, like you won't go to the doctors, you won't go to the physio if you've got like a potential injury. Why not? Because it gets sorted a lot faster. You'll take your car to the garage and you'll take the cat to the vet. But why aren't you going to get this sorted from the professional? Now, I've had plenty of clients message me being like, this hurt, that hurt, I'm struggling to do this exercise or that exercise, and I'm not a physio, so I'll try and help as best I can, but then there's a point where I'm like, look, this isn't getting any better through programming changes or any exercises I've given you. We go and seek a professional. Like, I'm staying in my lane here. I don't want people to think that I can go and fix injuries.
It's bang on. I think, if anything, I think there's an autonomy element where people, know that we as ourselves can fix our injuries and take advice from our coach or whatever remedy it is. Well, obviously, when you talk about the metaphor of a cat to the vet or a car to mechanics, obviously they don't have the autonomous mindset and means to do so like on their own terms. Whereas obviously some people do, but it's I think that's one of the wisest things to actually tell people. It's like, I'm staying in my own lane. It's like, don't give unsolicited advice you can't give. Which I think even in powerlifting, when it comes to even outside of injuries, like anything that you haven't done, it's like, you wouldn't give advice on someone you haven't done. So like, and I think even, and this is where it comes into question of like people who obviously offer coaching. It's like, but have you actually coached anyone at length for a selfless like sort of period? Because I remember, so like a good example that I know personally is a fellow called Brandon Burnett Azoka, whom I train with, and sort of like I have the same sort of relationship in terms of, obviously, we try and obviously go after each other's totals and whatnot, and obviously in GL, the same sort of thing, because he's one of fives. He's got All England's coming up, and he offered coaching for free for like quite a period. And then when he saw that the results were showing, he actually started offering it. And I would say that he's someone who, if you asked him about anything, he would actually be able to give the advice without feeling like it's that he knows what he's talking about and that he's done it before. Like, he's tried these methods, and because he's literally done it without any benefit to himself, any tangible benefit. And I think it's important. Obviously, that's why staying in your lane. It's very important.
I think staying in your lane is more important now than it used to be. So, you see it as like, if you want to get fit, you wouldn't hire a fat PT. Some people say, right?
Yeah, like a recent event. Yeah.
So it's like, if they haven't done it, what reason have you got to think that they can help you do it? Now, that's when you have the argument of education versus experience, right? Someone could be educated and know the theory. It was like, you could read a textbook about how cars are made. Doesn't mean you can fix your car, for example, right?
Yeah.
But then you probably got a better idea of how to do it than someone who hasn't read the textbook.
Yeah, of course.
Right. And then you've also got people who just took a car apart and then trial and error, like put it back together. So like those are kind of two people here. Someone who knows the theory, fat PT, someone who has done it themselves, your friend Brandon, right? He may not have any formal education, but he's done it. So there's these two kind of types of coaches who people go to. They're like, right, I want this guy because he's done it. I want this person because they know how to do it.
Yeah.
They've learned. Like, you can't really argue necessarily with either of them because one's got an education, one's got experience. Previously, before education or formal education was a large practice, all the coaches were just experience based.
Oh yeah, quite literally.
So it's really interesting to see this now shift of, people still want experienced coaches, or like some people want educated coaches. Ultimately, the best one is someone who's got both, like experience and education.
That's it. Well, it's like that's obviously comes into play. Obviously, recent events with the absolute those stupid lads, obviously who did what they did, and basically, show themselves who they are. And it's like it doesn't matter. Obviously, if they, for example, they might know more than me, and I can't argue with that. Like quite literally, I can't, because I don't have the knowledge that they do. And these people might be fantastic coaches. They might be fantastic for all these sorts of things. Whether or not people look at people and just say you don't know what you're talking about, well, a lot of people actually sometimes do. People surprise you in like various ways. In essentially, obviously, the metaphor of reading how to take a car apart versus taking it apart and putting it back together. And it's like when people go to it's like you see some of the biggest athletes in the world offer coaching, and actually their coaching isn't that great. And I've known this from several people who've been, and I won't mention names, obviously, of either the lifters who sought the coaching or the coaches offering it. And a lot of the time, a lot of these experienced coaches have actually just not been that personable coach you want, who, dedicates their time towards you and actually, makes you want to become like, the best standard of yourself. I remember, because Kate Sweatman was one of my coaches in the past, and Kate Sweatman was extremely on it. And obviously we disagree in the coach, and we talked about that when I parted from my coaching. But obviously whether you take on someone's how they offer coaching, that working relationship works well. And I do not doubt, Kate knew what she was on about. And for equipped athletes, the results show huge. I was having a discussion about this with someone the other day, and this is where I think a lot of lifters need to understand that just because somebody, if let's say they've got 1,000 kg total at 120, they might not know who the fuck they're talking about. How do you know that they've not just jumped on the bandwagon because there's some financial benefit involved, or that they've oh, my camera's gone. Oh goodness, I'm in the darkness.
I mean, we can just see you staring at. Oh,
no, there we go. Obviously, it's just that wow mug thingy. Or the other thing being is that you've got obviously, or they think, oh, well, because I've done this. No, I know. It's no, you got that from your coach, for goodness sake. It's one of the best coaches that I know by background is has to be Martin Bass, who is Bethnal Green Weightlifting Club in London. Mm-hmm. And Adadapo Ojawale is one of his lifters. Now, I met Adadapo at Fort again, because I competed with him in the Southern Qualifier. And I remember, Martin Bass can be so unassuming because he's this older Cockney fella who obviously he's very straight to the point and a man of very few words, but he's a master at coaching. He's one of the best renowned people obviously you could go to. And I think there's this judgment. I think whether you're thin or fat, or whether you look like you lift 1,000 kg or never picked a weight, I think this judgment nowadays, you just need to obviously ask people, have they been coached by them, and what the results show. That's it.
Yeah, I think coaches should only get better as time goes on. That should an individual coach should only improve as time goes on. The experience they gain should add to their toolbox, and then they can use that as they go. So your man Martin here, the thing is, the younger athlete will look at him and be like, oh, he's just some old man. Whereas anyone who's above the age of 20 should look at him and be like, right, but how long has he been doing this? Oh, he's been doing this for 30, 40 years. Man, he should be unreal. The fact to stay in the coaching role for that long. So many people will start their online little coaching business, and after 2-3 years, or PT, 2-3 years, disappear, can't do it, unsuccessful, unsustainable. It's not easy,
no, it's not.
But someone who's been doing it for so long kind of tells you that they must be bloody good at it. And yeah, sure, look at the athletes they have. And if you see a really good athlete, probably look for their coach. Like that's how I was determining my coach. My current coach is right. Well, who coaches really strong people and is still progressing them? Like one of my favorite 93s, Emil Kristav, coached by Reformance, went to Reformance. You can still make him progress, and he's at the top. I'm not at the top, so you should have no problem making me progress. And
Yeah,
like my total just keeps going up every comp.
yeah.
So
It's one of the. I think it's one of those ones where people don't realize how much obviously you have to change as well. That you might have to adapt to the stresses of the. Obviously, I mean, it's. I think Martin Bass has been in for so long, but obviously with that in mind, I mean, the 21st century obviously presents a load of challenges when it comes to coaching. And I think like when you get, if you can adapt everything around it and face these challenges and, work it and sharpen your iron when it comes to applying these to your lifters and knowing what's good and whatnot. And simultaneously, I think keeping with old methods at work, because I think a lot of people who jump to coaching want to change it so much and change it. Like I had a chat with someone the other day and it was like, and they asked like, they said that they've almost cottoned on to what my training split is now, and obviously and obviously when my primary days are, when my secondary days are, and they said it's all the same, and I said, yeah, so because it works. Like Jesus Christ, I can't think of how little my training has changed since I started with Stefan Cardas, which was back in November 2024, and it's like the only thing that got introduced because I said I can do a fifth day. And he said, right, I'll shove a fifth day, and then here's a bunch of accessories, here's a continuity bench, like go off and do it. And the thing that, obviously when it comes to my secondaries, obviously the RPE and the rep ranges might change. The accessories completely unchanged. Just progressing those numbers, just seeing and just pile it on there. And I think it's striking that fine balance between adapting to new methods in the 21st century and obviously the advancement of everything and keeping with the old methods. Because I think some people, because again, I think we said like your training is going to be boring. We call this conversation person. Your training is going to be boring sometimes. Get used to it. Like just 3 lifts, get used to it.
yeah, no, absolutely. Like what do you expect if you're doing powerlifting? And your training is probably going to change based on you as an athlete in terms of where you're at. I think we're probably at a similar level in powerlifting, although it may not come across on paper. Like
Yeah,
I've got an international singlet, and I've come podium at like most nats I go to. You've only done 3 comps, but our totals are very similar. Our training age is similar, like those kind of things. So my training, again, very rarely changes. Like I've done paused high bar squats for about a year.
What's sorry?
Paused high bar squats for about a year,
Yeah,
solidly on my secondary squat day. Like it works. My squat's going up, so we're gonna keep
yeah,
it going. The idea of like changing it should only come into someone's head if things aren't working. You know, what was it? Buddy Einstein saying like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I think people hear that or people have it in the back of their head and think, oh, I must change things to get a different result. Yeah. But what if the result you're getting is the one you want? Don't change anything. Keep that
yeah.
going.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed when it comes to that sort of thing is that people forget that if you should, and I'll apply this mostly to accessories here, because everyone's going to want everyone I would say wants to keep the same sort of primaries, but everyone wants to change accessories because accessories can be boring. The main thing is just push them, like that's
Yeah.
it. Like, and I think that is a really hard thing to hit into lifters because it's not squatting like 300 kg, like for a single every week or whatnot. It's actually like doing the stuff that's going to make your face like wince, like it's gonna really like suck the life out of you. But obviously necessary. But when you change those accessories, and let's say obviously from one block you finish the block and you've absolute, your accessories have been going up, and then you've got to start, and then you start another block with a new set of them. You've got to start from the ground up, and there's obviously going to be a big change on the other end when you start doing that. It's going to be a big change on the other end because you're not going to um you're going to have to work from ground zero to get that accessory up to a good standard. And there is no way to know from starting. It's like, what's it going to do to your total? It could make it worse because it's not actually doing much. But I think some accessories as well, I would say your accessories need to sort of terrify you. They need to be ones that are like, they're tough for a reason. Like for me, for example, like when it comes to um like all my accessories tend to be the mass majority tend to be RP 9010 straight away. Like no silly business. And it's it's for example, it's like bicep curls at like 9 to 10. Like I'm superset 9 to 10. Um I'm trying to think of others. Like the full accessory day that have a core tuning bench, all 9 to 10. And it's like, just get if you're not, making, if your face isn't changing structure in that time, you ain't hitting hard enough. Let's be honest. Come on.
I love the way that you were thinking of accessories, and the only one you got was like biceps curls. Bicep curls are my accessory.
Of course, it has to be, yeah, straight away. It never leaves you. It's like almost like a constant impact.
Just do, how do you get such a big squat? Bicep curls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a few things to unpack there in terms of like from a coaching perspective, programming accessories. Like I want to program what works.
Yep.
And what works will just probably be the same for a very long time. Whereas the lifter, you sometimes you want certain accessories, like there are accessories you like, and there's like the tedium side of things where it's like, oh well, I'm bored of doing like chest supported rows now, can I do something else? And like there are a few options, sure, like it's just a horizontal row at the end of the day, but I feel I kind of struggle programming accessories because I feel like I have to change them so the athlete doesn't get too bored, but I still want it to target like the correct thing. Because the athlete gets bored, then they're not going to do them properly. They're not going to push them hard enough. Then if they don't like the accessory, they may not even do it. They'll just pretend they did it. Like there are so like all these factors. So I think it's it's largely athlete dependent. Like if the athlete has the mindset of just gonna do whatever you tell me to, eat dirt, versus an athlete that's like, oh, like an athlete who cares a bit too much about their own feelings, then it's I have to then change things around frequently. And yeah, you do start from zero, and like by the time I've got someone doing Bulgarian split squats at the moment, they've not had them for a while, and it's like the first 3 weeks out of 4, it's been like, oh well, I'm still getting used to them. I've not done them for a while. I'm like, cool. I'm probably gonna have to keep this in next block so that you can continue to push them. But the athlete might be like, well, I don't even like them, so please take them out. And I'm like, but I'd actually quite like you to have them in.
It's like, what are you paying for then? That's another question to call in, because I think like inevitably you've got a sport that's based upon 3 lifts that are playing a motion of up and down, like because it's that finite and like sorry not finite, that sort of strict in terms of how of obviously how much it is, you're gonna have to push it hard. Like for goodness sake, you're pushing so much weight in one plane of motion. You're gonna have to like do these so difficult, and you're gonna have to have some difficult accessories to work around that.
Yeah, but I think we could circle that back to like one of our earlier points of the background we have in terms of rugby. Like, I've definitely thrown up from training.
Oh yeah, I have.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
And you've thrown up from training. Like we've pushed ourselves that hard where we're dizzy, we've thrown up, but then we get back up and we carry on.
Yeah,
and that would be like a mental fortitude that I would find very difficult to train someone into in powerlifting. Someone who just picks up powerlifting, I think they have it a little bit too easy. And as a coach, it is very difficult to try and program or instill the same mental fortitude that it might require to go to RPE 9-10 frequently on accessories. Like I can give people AMRAPs and I'll show me a video and I'll be like, why did you stop? And they're like, oh, that was a 10. I'm like, but you didn't fail. You didn't actually go
Yeah,
there. You just
yeah.
decided, oh, I couldn't do the next one. You didn't believe in yourself. So, like, I'm trying to help people's mental fortitude when I'm coaching them so that they
Well,
can push themselves.
the best way I've used when you mentioned AMRAP, that's one of the ones that I've noticed. A true way to know RPE is get an AMRAP, like actually do an AMRAP for like goodness sake, like on accessories as well. That's on your main lifts, maybe not. I mean, obviously, you could be the one, obviously, to tell me about that because again, I apply it much more to accessories because it's the ground up.
Yeah.
Like accessories, obviously, in the name of accessorize, your main lifts, and obviously, it sort of like builds a picture when obviously it comes into focus. I think everybody looks at it as being, here you go, who's got 3 lifts? Oh, now you've got to work everything around it. It's like no, like this is where the bodybuilding phase comes into it, and you've got to just do those accessories really hard. And with AMRAPs, you sort of know, like one, it's good because obviously you will go to you will go to complete failure, as many reps as possible. It's in the name. And the second thing being is that you can sort of do back calculations based off of it as well. You can do some, and I wouldn't be able to say as to whether it's perfect to a T, but it really well helps.
No, I think the AMRAPs are a great learning tool. So like I will give some AMRAPs for the big three, like squat, bench, deadlift, but I'll cap it like for squats and deadlifts, I'll cap it as an RPE 8 AMRAP, for example. So here's a
Yeah,
set weight, go until it's an RPE 8. And then they
yeah,
can learn, right? Oh, okay, that was I have gone to an 8 now with 85% of my max, but I also did like 7 reps. So maybe it's no longer 80% of your max, or you're just really good at reps. Like that's an option too.
yeah.
Bench, I
It's
will go to like an RPE 10 because you can fail that pretty safely, you know. But the accessories, I think that's an even bigger learning curve because people don't push them necessarily as hard as they should. So, you've maybe I'll give them like 2 sets of 12 to 15 at an RPE 7, right? And then the last set, do an AMRAP with the same weight. And then they might end up doing like 30 reps as an AMRAP. It's like, well, now I can tell you, and you should hopefully have learned that those 2 sets beforehand at 12 to 15 reps RPE 7 weren't RPE 7 because you just did 30 afterwards.
quite literally, yeah. It's one of those strange ones. It's one of those ones where like one of my first coaches was a guy called Tim, and a lot of the time Tim was coached by John Farncombe, who is AJ Sharma's coach, and Tim very much used a lot of the time. You use reps in reserve, and I think obviously we may have moved on from reps in reserve. RPE is obviously a big judgment because you can look at RPE and you can say, okay, well, that felt like RP10. Oh my god, I'm completely blitzed. I can't like. I'm gonna use someone again. Tricep push down, which I'll do
Yeah.
to absolute oblivion. And it's like RP10. So I can't feel my triceps anymore. Like, that's it. It's like obviously RP5. It's like it's middle lane, and it's sort of viewed as on obviously a pendulum. Is it absolutely sweet now, or is it absolutely oblivion like here? And I think a lot of people really struggle when they look at it like oblivion. Like, but you've got to look at it as that because that bodybuilding and that sort of tenacity, not only is it going to grow you physically, it's going to grow you mentally as well. It's going to obviously when it comes to obviously getting on the platform and looking at the bar when it's loaded for any of the lifts, and you think, I don't think I can do that. And then they'll look at it and they'll think like, oh my God, it's like that weight scares you. It's like, it scares you. Oh, brilliant. Let's have a go at it then. Like, let's get onto the platform and let's show out and do it. And I think that is and that's where sort of accessories sort of really makes or breaks lifters. And it really shows on the platform as well in that sort of head game. Obviously, like when I did 275 squat, I looked at it and thought, I'm got Scooby doing that. Like what? 5 reds? Not a clue. Did it, and I was like, like obviously leaping the air afterwards, and then not too long ago, 280 in training, and I thought, man, 280. I mean, like walking out, I just thought, oh no, like this is not going, and it does. And if it really doesn't scare you, it doesn't give you that drive. Like that drive is really needed.
Yeah, like I agree. Like it's I don't know if I've been scared for a squat or like a lift before on the platform, and that's not me being like, look at me, I'm fucking fearless. No, I just mean like the mindset or like the phrase I always say to people, athletes, myself, is if you look after the movement looks after the weight, right? So
Brilliant
I'm
phrase.
like, do not consider what's on the bar. Like me as your coach, I'm not going to load something you can't lift.
No, of course.
If you miss it, like okay, that either I've made a bad judgment call or there was something slightly off in terms of the technical aspect, right? But end of the day, I'm not going to put anyone in danger, especially in their training program. Like a
No, of
lot of
course.
people train on their own. So, but when it comes to the platform, like you do have five people around you generally, 3 to 5 people. You're safe. Mistakes happen, whatever. But yeah, it's like the most I've done in training was 267 squat, and
Yeah.
then on the weekend I did 280.
Yeah.
Like there's a pretty big difference between those numbers, but I didn't look at 280 and think, oh, I can't do it. I was like, well, I'm gonna do everything I can to give myself the best chance of getting it. Like
Yeah.
I focused on hitting depth because I've been called out for depth before in comps. I just like I did my opener and then I was like, just do exactly the same thing for your second. I did exactly the same thing for my second in terms of what I could do. And then it was like the third, right? Your second moved fine. It's 10 kilo more. Do the same thing again. If you stand up, big win. If you don't, you're safe. Like people are going to catch you. Don't worry about it. Like there's no danger. There's never any
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm scared. I'm going to hurt myself because I'm not. Because I know how to squat.
Yeah.
Not necessarily great at it, but I know how to do it. And like bench, the same. 2 to 4 people around you, they got you. You bring that down. If you try to press and you can't, and like, there's safety arms. There's people like there's no danger really, unless a mistake happens. And again,
Of course.
do the same thing as my first. Do the same thing as my second. Or if maybe you mess up your first, make the correction. Then you go into your third. You're like, right, do the same thing as I did in my second.
Yeah.
That's it. I like the danger. People's danger is overthinking. Like it's themselves. Biggest enemy is themselves when it comes to psyching themselves out of lifts. Being too focused on, oh, it's a really big number. What if I fail? Yeah, but what if you get it? What if you add
Yeah.
these kilos
Quite
to the
literally. Yeah.
total? What if you hit this massive PB? How cool is that?
Yeah. It's one of those ones because I mean I don't know about you because obviously you got 205 bench and I'm obviously at Silent Worker and
Yeah.
obviously I think there must have been obviously you break it down to each lift you must have looked at all of them and thought well obviously getting them in training obviously is not going to be you're not training you're not training all that time to get in training you're training to get it on the day. Like,
Yeah.
obviously there's that standard of looking across, like, I look at 280 and getting in training and I'm like, right, let's get 300. Like, come, let's get 300. Like, for goodness sake, like, I haven't hit 200 bench yet. It's like, right, well, I'm knocking on its doorstep, so I might as well go and get it in comp. And, and this is one of the things as well that I discussed with Stefan, that he said, we don't have to push deadlifts that hard. He said, we really don't have to push them hard at all. And because he said he knows on meet day, he said you can peak fucking well for your deadlifts. And again, looking at it, I think, if you're pushing hard in training and you're getting the good respectable numbers in training, who knows what you can get when it comes to comp? Like, the gates are open. Unless you're completely blitzing out and you feel like you've completely zapped yourself, then maybe not. Maybe not. But I mean, that's obviously where the primary days and the week fours come in, and that's where they really do shock you. Like I've got a 260 kg double, and come the end of this block for squat, and all I know for 260 squat double is I think to myself, let's make it move better than the first 2 times I've done it. For bench, I've got a 190. Well, let's make 190 move better. For deadlift, I've got 310. Well, let's make 310 move better. And that's the sort of indication of like what's to come. I think people should look at training, obviously, in the present moment and thinking, right, does that move better than the last time that you've done it? Okay, yeah, it does. You made progress, standard. But then it comes to obviously comp, and it's like, right, but now you've got an indication. Peak yourself, get yourself ready, and then on the platform, who bleeding knows what's coming for you? And that's the beauty. Like on the day you make the right calls, that number that you dreamed of, that's gonna be on the board with 3 white lights.
Yeah, no, the a lot of people you always hear the jokes of like, oh, take your third attempt in the week before comp, see if you can do it.
No,
You see it
no,
as the joke and stuff, right?
no.
Like, obviously not, don't do this. But what was it? The week before comp, my last heavy set of lifts, I think I totaled 767, right?
Yeah,
Cool. Totaled then 815 on the platform. Those lifts the week before were like RPE 8 to
yeah.
9. On the day, I'd say they were no harder than those last heavies because we tapered, we peaked well. My coach messaged me afterwards. It was like, the key to your deadlift seems to be not deadlifting.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
Because like pulled through, he capped me at like 325 going into the comp, and then
Right.
I was like, I would actually quite like to pull 330. He was like, fine, I'll let you do 327, and then on the day he's not there. So, my partner who was handling me, we just messaged him like, can we do 330? Kind of meaning we've put it in. And then he was looking at the numbers, he was watching the live stream, he had the lifting cast up, and he was like, well, because at that time, so it was like my last deadlift, I had a 795 total. So I was like, look, that's a total PB. Cool.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, if you're happy with the chance of missing, fine. I also didn't need it. If the other 105 got his last deadlift, I needed it to win. If he didn't, then I'd already won, like, grand. But then, I'll go out and I lift it, and I was like, well, I don't actually know what I can deadlift now, because that felt the same as 320 at my last comp, and I've no idea. My last heavy pull before comp, 305. Like,
yeah.
And it felt maybe a little bit easier than 330 on the day, but I don't really know what my point is here.
This is one of the things I've seen that's been very recently. There's been a big thing of people trying to do their opener, like the opener of the week, the week before or whatnot, or obviously as their like last single or whatnot, to know what it feels like. Because you have no idea what sort of taper gives you, because obviously some tapers go absolutely bollocks and some go absolutely grand. And like, that was a mistake that I would say that I made. Like, for example, obviously going to Southern Qualifier, I remember that my last squat was 260. Like, that was my second attempt. Me like piss on the day. My bench, biggest mistake, I did 175 and I only got 177 out of it. And then my last deadlift, I think, was like 290, and I got 315 on the day. And I'd say that now, like going into comps, what have I learned? I'm going to be way more conservative with my bench. Like, even though I got 180.5 for 3 on my secondary this week, I'm absolutely probably not going to be touching, like, even though bench obviously gone up like leaps and bounds now, I would not be touching anything above sort of 175 before. Like, now I know obviously to be more conservative on it and think like, it's not, your taper is not a chance to obviously do your openers and practice. It's all for the day. So you might as well just obviously be a bit conservative, keep stuff in the chamber, let your body rest. It's that time to almost get your body just, in the name, tapered, get it ready. It's not a chance to show out. Like, showing out in the weeks before your comp is one of, don't know obviously if it's been like a thing of the past or relic of it, but I think to myself, for God's sake, we need to get rid of this now. Like, we need to obviously prioritize, obviously knowing that it's that day that matters only.
I'd say it's a very new thing to lift too much too close to comp, because if you look at old programming styles, you'd have I think the original taper was do not train the week before comp at all. Don't go to the gym. That was the very first kind of taper. Then you had people being like, oh yeah, like we'll train, but we'll train lightly, which I think's like what most people should do now. And then the taper some people taper for 2 weeks in terms of less training. Some people training for a week and a half. Like it's very variable. Something that I'd say something that really helped my mindset in going into comp and trusting the taper, which is what a lot of people love to say. Just trust the taper.
Quite literally, yeah.
Is practicing tapers. So like my coach for a very long time, less so recently, but a very long time, and I think it was like a good amount of data collection, was we would run different length blocks and we would taper to like we would have a taper week, and then we would hit some like nice RPE 8-9 singles at the end of the block, whether it be a full 5 week, 6 week. I think I even had like an 8-week block one time. It was rough, but like having the taper in training, experiencing what it's like on the end of that week, you can, we say it's week 4, right? A lot of people do 4-week blocks. Taper on week 4, and then your last session, SBD day, RPE 9 singles. What was the difference between week 3 and week 4? How much did you improve? What did the taper give you? Cool. You run that again. You maybe don't push as hard the next block, but then you're like, so when you do get to comp, run your taper, and you can kind of see, right, week 3, I totaled 767, and I know I get X percentage on each lift on the day. Cool. Now look at me, like 815 on the day, I gained that much through the taper. Yeah. I think that is not something I necessarily see many people do. And I'm not saying you have to do it every block, because then you run into the idea of people looking like, oh, I want to hit PBs at the end of every block. Not realistic. It's about the data collection. It's about right, how much does the taper give you? Do you have to taper your bench early? Maybe your deadlift early? Do you not even have to taper your bench? Does that react well to not? Like I think bench and deadlifts are like the ones where it's, bench could be left heavier for longer. Deadlifts tend to be heavier, like go lighter sooner. Like I don't think I deadlifted in my taper week. I deadlifted on my week 3, and then I competed. There was a long time off the deadlift. I didn't deadlift at all. And also learn what the lifts feel like during your taper. My bench felt terrible. It felt awful during the taper week. I was like, God, this is so heavy. It's so slow. I was like starting to get a bit concerned about comp. And then 205 came up. I was like, wow. Turns out I had nothing to worry about. I know that for next time. If my bench feels a bit rubbish, I'll be like, it's fine. I don't need to be strong today. Comp day is when we have to be strong. I learned that about my squats a long time ago. Squats felt terrible, like on day 1 of my taper. Comp day comes, PB. Fantastic. Don't need to worry about that. I was also concerned about the fact I hadn't deadlifted in like a week and a half. I was like, oh, what if I forget how to deadlift? Wait a minute. I've been doing this since I was like 17. I know how to deadlift.
Yeah.
Come to comp. Oh, look, I didn't forget how to deadlift.
But that's the scale. I think with being deadlifts, it's like how little the programming can be for it. Because to me, I mean, like I have secondaries, and I don't even. Sometimes I've even sort of thought to myself, like, do I even need a secondary? And it's one of those ones where it's like, it's quite literally just pull off the ground, like push that bar off the ground. That's it. And I think obviously the big focus now has been, obviously, I think we're experiencing a shift away from, a shift away from the sort of deadlift centric content that's obviously been so big on people's minds. Where obviously now it's looking at the subtotals, and you're like, that's obviously where it comes in, where obviously you can literally relegate it to like, right, what's your subtotal? Because obviously distinguishes a deadlift as like, obviously, yeah, it's a great lift, don't get me wrong, it's a good, pull a fat deadlift, it's fantastic. But now it's to the point where like you're looking at subtotals and you think, well, hang on a moment, like, you'll ask people what it's going to be, and obviously it's got its own term, like that's how valued it is. And knowing the fact that you can break obviously down a taper into each lift and examine that rather than the whole taper is actually quite a good thing, because a lot of people view taper as this whole big giant term, this unanimous umbrella term, where actually you can break it down and realize that each lift is distinctive. You have 3 lifts for a reason, and you can break it down to know which can get tapered better and which can. So obviously you're saying your squat and your bench didn't feel great. Well, you got on the platform, you did it. You didn't do a deadlift. You thought, oh man, I didn't know how to even deadlift now. But you did. And that's, I think, breaking it down like that, it still gets the same result. Like, you know, whether you do have 3 or 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3, it still equals the same bloody result. Like, however you look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like, knowing that, having experienced it, I can coach people better through that experience. If I had never experienced it feeling bad or being concerned about my performance, and then an athlete comes to me and is like, "Oh, I'm really worried, blah blah blah," be a terrible coach if I'm just there like, "Oh, shut up, trust the taper, you're an idiot, like, get over it, like, oh, that shouldn't happen." Or maybe I go the other way, it's like, "Oh, that shouldn't happen," and then I get concerned as a coach, like, "Oh, what do I do? Have I done this wrong? Have I ruined their life?" Like, no, it's powerlifting, calm down. But the fact that I've been through that now, and I'm like, look, I can even just like relate to them, be like, look, I have been in that position, or I can maybe pre-warn them, like, right, we're tapering now. You know, bench may feel a bit slow, squats might feel less skillful, and deadlifts might feel hard. But that's normal. Like that can be normal. If they feel great, that's also fine. It tells me your like fatigue's dropped quite nicely, and then we're just like ticking along. Like, either's okay. Comp day is what matters. And if we practice tapers in blocks before, amazing. You probably already know what to expect. But I saw quite a few, not quite a few. I saw one French lifter was like missing lifts in their final like 2 weeks before the comp. And I was like, that's an interesting way to train for comp. Like, and then when it came to the day and I saw the numbers they were loading, I was like, right, so it's also kind of interesting because those are less than what you attempted and failed. At least your coach was smart enough to go, right, well, you failed this, so we're obviously not going to load that on the day.
Yeah.
Which is good. So that is like the epitome of try your thirds. They're not there. Okay, well, we'll just not lift those on comp day. But yeah, I think, you know, someone who read a textbook as a coach couldn't manage an athlete going through that experience without the experience. So that's why you're going to want both. And it's not to say that people with the experience and without the textbook can't achieve the same things that the textbook person can. Like, a lot of the times, it's like there's a common sense element of like, right, we need you to get bigger. Okay, I've not read a textbook, but I do know if you eat more and you train hard, you're going to get bigger. Like, whereas the textbook person would have known it from their textbook, or like the specific things.
I think I think there's the relatability element when it comes to coaching as well, and I think that's where I think people need to sort of look at people that they can be themselves amongst and obviously relate to, and that's where I thought that's where the personable matter of coaching comes into it, because you're not going to look at someone like, I don't know, one of the top athletes at Sheffield and be able to know how to relate to them, because how will they know the struggles of regular everyday stuff? How will they know obviously to balance life, work, and lifting? Because literally the whole entire income is going to be based off of powerlifting for all these people. Like, I mean, you've got like Ashton Rusker, who's obviously serving, you know, in the US Armed Forces, and then, you know, you've got some of the others. But the issue is obviously relatability sometimes, because it's like, if your coach can come to you and say, I've been through that, I've made that mistake, here's how I remedied it, rather than some people who just say, I'll just get on with it. And I think that's where sometimes you can call into issue as to whether someone's a good coach, is that relatability element. Like, for example, like I remember a while back, and I won't say who, but someone who's a lot younger than me texted me when I not too long into when I started the Met, and they said, would you want to go through coach with me? I'll hear you're looking for a coach. I thought, in all politeness, like, I work ridiculous shifts. Like, the fact of, like, who can respond to the fact of that? Like, who can respond to the fact of my shift patterns can be mental. And I just have to work around it. That's just reality. I'm not going to give up my job for powerlifting, for goodness sake. My income's always going to come first. And the very good thing I'd say about Stefan is he's always known how to work around it. Like, he's always known. Like, I just say to him, it's like, I've had the shift from hell today. And he's like, right, well, he said, I can adjust this for you. I can adjust the numbers. If he knows that I've got like a week of nights, then he can just say to me, right, I'm going to adjust this. Like, if this is in the middle of a block, I can adjust the numbers in the middle so we can obviously get a big result later. Or if it's at the end of a block, he's like, right, we can adjust that. He said, you can try and push through it. He goes, that's at your own admission. That's up to you then. The onus is now on you because you told me. But he said, if I need to adjust it, he said, oh, well, he's done that. And actually, it works really well. And I think even in that relatability sense, whatever you've got going on for you, such as yourself, you interact with, you've got obviously a very wide array of lifters who work very different jobs, very different set of circumstances. And I think obviously how you relate and talk and vocalize these things is what obviously stands you out as a coach to them as to why they stick with you and why they know that obviously there's something good at the end of the tunnel, because they can relay those concerns and then you can adjust and you can obviously tailor the whole long-term thing. Because again, obviously, it's all like it's like obviously with how economies go up. For example, obviously, economies go through peaks and troughs all the time, obviously with some shocks and whatnot, but generally they go on the up. And people have to view that long-term sense of, like, powerlifting. You are going to go up, but it's obviously a long-term thing. And most people don't look in that long-term sense. And that's where obviously working within a block and long-term matters so much.
Yeah, I'd say, like, it's been a huge benefit to work with so many different people. Like, I've worked with people on night shifts. I've worked with people who, like, own a business and are under really high stress. Men and women, like, still different people. Women aren't just smaller men. Like, differences. And then, like, people who are like, oh yeah, I'm like first-time parent, got a kid, but still want to train. It's not dissimilar to someone who's working crazy shifts like yourself. Like, and if any, like, it's almost more unpredictable because it's like, kids get sick, right? Gotta send it to the hospital or doctors or whatever. Like, baby decided didn't want to sleep last night, so neither did I. Cool. Like, that's like a daily adjustment kind of thing, or sorry, been trying to work, look after my wife, look after my kids, not have a mental breakdown, didn't train today. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I do see some coaches, like, you see some coaches like, right, well, they're a masters coach. Like, they coach masters really well. They coach juniors really well. Well, that's just like, then, there's a price element. Juniors don't pay much, can't afford much because they're juniors. They either don't have a job or they don't see the value, whatever. Probably a different topic. But they can be coaches that don't charge a lot. They have loads of juniors. They're really good at handling juniors who are, like, going through exam stresses and, break up in relationships and things, right? I've got some juniors and I've been lucky enough to work with them through, like, becoming opens as well. So, like, that whole transition where a lot of people drop off from junior to open. You're not at uni anymore. You're not working. You're not training with all your friends. You're getting a real job. You got other priorities. I'm fortunate enough to, like, transition people through that. Because guess what? I've done that. Well, I started when I was younger and came through, and I'm an adult doing a job, and I've had other jobs. Like,
it's like I'd say as well, it gets that sort of tough point. And obviously on a personal standpoint, like, for example, my other half and me are looking to move in this year. And I'm hopefully looking to move within the Met to a unit where I'm going to have a lot longer patterns of work, but obviously a bit more rest as well. And obviously way more unpredictable shifts than one I've got now, like, because obviously just demand of it. And that, I think, into question sort of calls on, right, this is where it's really going to matter now. Like, that's what it's like. Now I'm in a pretty good position where it's like, obviously still going through the process of applying for this new thing. And obviously my missus and I are talking about obviously moving in. And obviously that's the long term element. It's like, right, now it's sort of a case of like, once those two kick into high gear, it's like that's where it's really going to get tested. And whether that comes from a personal standpoint of staying within the sport, and also with the coaching matter, because I have no doubt that Stefan can adapt, and that's obviously from the standpoint of obviously you as a coach who also was coached, and me who's obviously I've not ever coached, but I'm only a lifter. I only know these things through just experiencing them, and that's where the real tough element comes in. Like, that's where the sort of, as I said, where the juniors come in, because when I discuss stuff with some of the junior lifters, it can be very tough to talk about things with them, because it's like they'll ask, it's like, oh, JP, you in Saturday? I'm like, mate, I work as a policeman. Like, Saturdays where a lot of criminals do a lot of things. Like, like even obviously you got, the ones who obviously don't work, obviously commit crime and whatnot. In the week on a Tuesday afternoon, funny enough, people drink alcohol on the weekends and and go out and whatnot. And then that's where your real sort of issues come in. And then that's where sort of the relatability element come in. Like, as adults, like, a weekends might be, for family time, for if you're religious, for example, that's where that will come into play. And obviously that will happen obviously in a more setting when you are in the opens, when you are in the masters. These things will matter so much more. And I think like that's where sort of the scrutiny that comes on when it comes to the opens. You see, like I talked to some of the guys obviously being on the mic at opens and having a chat with them, and I'm like fuck me, some of you guys work. This is utterly ridiculous. How are you doing this? Like, but I was like, even I, I have bad shift patterns as a copper, but I don't have any children, and I've got a very supportive partner, and I find it really, really like telling. Obviously, opens like, wow, you've stuck at this for the long term. Like, you really are a tough one. Like, and whatever. And some people work some very physical, hard graft jobs. Some people work like obviously nights. Obviously, some people will, have like 4 kids, and you're like, bro, how on earth are you like on the platform? And and then you still hit these massive PRs. Because you are beyond human at this point. Like, and I think it's juniors is not the indication of where you'll be. Like I said, the drop-off point, the mental barrier of getting past that age of 23, where it's like not only are you not have the time anymore, but you're also competing with the big boys now. And it's like that's where like you truly think, shit, like I've really got to wisen up now, and your decision making probably might be smarter.
I got like 2 points that we're going to finish on here. So the first one is you're saying like, as a copper, like crime happens largely on a weekend. Do you just like, are you excited for the weekend? Most people live for the weekends, most people's jobs, because the weekend is free. But the weekend for you seems to be, this is where you actually have to do some harder work. What are your views on the weekend as a copper then, in your situation?
What sort of is that in a sense of being as a copper or being obviously in powerlifting?
As a real human, we're gonna pretend we're not powerlifters for a minute, and we're just talking about your jobs.
Oh no, that's really hard.
Yeah.
It's like I think it's one of the weird ones where I think we have obviously the 7-day week of the old traditional way of 1 day rest on a Sunday, the Lord's Day and whatnot, and the weekend, and obviously obviously everything's obviously that you're gloomy on a Monday, and then to Friday you're perked up, and Saturday, Sunday, your day of rest and whatnot, and then you start all over again. And for the weekend, I sort of view it as, I just, for me, I've just got to adapt my entire life around it. Like, I sort of work on the premise that I could be working 24 hours. Like, like obviously there's a duty bound, obviously, in my job that I have to get on and do, anything like I sort of see, I can obviously act upon, obviously, on my discretion. And it's one of those ones of the weekend where I think like everyone putting all their energy into one end of the week is not a good thing. But there needs to be that consistency element. That's where the progress is going to be made in anything, not in powerlifting. I'm trying to take it away from powerlifting as much as I can. And it's like viewing everything of just try and do your best all the time. There's a consistency element involved in that, because no progress gets made outside of it, does it? Like, you've got to have everything on, you've got to maximize everything as much as possible to the best extent.
Yeah, and that may not look like 100% every day. It may look like 50% on some days, 100 on others, 10% on a Tuesday, but like you're doing 100% of the 10% at least.
Yeah, brilliant point.
And then the last point would be, do you have any ideas on how we could encourage or incentivize junior lifters to stay? Like, how, from the like sport perspective, what could powerlifting, or like specifically like the BP, because that's what you're in, or the IPF, is there anything that they could do to encourage or incentivize or improve the retention of junior lifters going into opens? Because I don't think we could necessarily or powerlifting could necessarily change the fact that people need to get jobs and people's priorities change.
Of course.
But is there something that we could like make it easier for them to stay?
A weird outdrawn idea, I'd say. And I don't know if you come to the same conclusion as me on this one. I'd say that actually just advertise it as a long-term thing and just say, right, not to knock you being juniors at all, not at all, but advertise it. It's like, you will make the long-term progress. Look at Durins, look at Joy Namani, look at the, I'm relegating this only to GB because obviously both being in the UK right now, obviously know you're of Irish background, obviously me, obviously British born UK. But obviously the thing is look at it from this long-term standpoint and kind of prepare them for it now, because there's that distinction where you've got the opens and you've got the juniors. They've already made that distinction straight away that once, I think, isn't it like the January of when you turn 23, like that's your last outing as a junior? Like, I literally competed in juniors, British juniors, at the very end of I was 22. And then the next time juniors round, I couldn't have competed. I'd be in the open straight away. And that wasn't a hard pill to swallow because I just couldn't do it. But I think it's just obviously making the information aware from British powerlifting's perspective of this is how life's going to change. And I think juniors is marked in this really good sort of way, because juniors is from the age of 18. And when you turn 18, and obviously powerlifting tends to attract a lot of university students. That's why box is so massive. And you have a lot of people that will go in because they've got the time, they'll find powerlifting. Societies are set up for it. Obviously, you've got like Leeds Barbell, or you've got, as one that I know sort of local to me, like King's College, obviously in South London. I know the president runs it, Hamza. And he, the thing is obviously when you turn 18, you can be an undergraduate. You're going to go into it and you're going to work for the first 3 years, and then obviously you might do a master's, and that sort of takes you up to 23. And that's obviously, you've got quite a bit of time when you do masters. Obviously it takes a lot of time, but it's not going to take up the time like full-time work. So it sort of makes this distinction, because it sort of makes a distinction that once you turn 23, that's where life hits you really hard. Well, it's not really hard straight away, but obviously it begins to. And obviously you turn 30 and your mindset changes. And that's sort of where the open sort of gets big. And then you get to the masters, and that's when, you've sort of got that responsibility. I think it's British powerlifting showing straight away. There could just be obviously information of just like, right, how do we transition you? How do we make it so that you stay in powerlifting beyond the age of 23? Because we want them to. I don't want people to drop off. I see it when I've looked at it, and I feel really quite something. I've seen loads of lifters like around my age, and it'd be really hard to know how many of them are staying in it and want to compete, because again, like, people move away, people have children, people get married, people move houses, people move bloody countries, and like, you just don't have that sometimes, that thing, because people prioritize power. Well, I will, like, if I go into the TSG in the Metropolitan Police, which obviously you get time to train, your shifts can go like beyond, and it's just, you do some fun stuff that are going beyond. I got to realize I might have to tone down powerlifting a bit. Might be able to make the same progress, but there needs to be that information straight away. And how they release it, I don't know. My way would be just literally very strong bullet points, straight to the point. There you go. Of just saying to people, right, you are going to be working, you are going to be stressed, you are going to be tired. This is reality now, and there needs to be a distinction for juniors. I think a lot of the juniors make a lot of the sort of content, sort of related stuff, but then you see the people who are beyond juniors and they're not making this content because you have the time for it. Like when you start, it's true. I mean, I made a post, obviously, crapping on it, but I make it for the distinction of you've got the time to do that. Some people don't have the time to make a load of edits and whatnot, and obviously with the juniors, and that culture then literally dies off straight after. It's like, right, now go and do the hard graft, go and experience what life is, and earn an income on top of it, because you're not in a safe league anymore. You're against the big boys now.
Yeah, I think the way that could be packaged maybe is knowing that university powerlifting is huge. It's all volunteers but creating a PowerPoint and going into universities and running a seminar, whatever you want to call it, online webinar, and just display these points to them and make them aware.
I like that.
People may not be aware, and when they because social media is very big, and a lot of it is, look at how good this person is, look at the numbers they hit, they won this, they've done that, but there isn't an emphasis on how long they've been doing it for, how long you can expect it to take. The only thing people really notice is when it doesn't take very long. There are some juniors that have I competed for a year and I won Nats with a 900 total as a 66. That is an anomaly and should be shown as such, because that unfortunately inspires loads of new people to be like, I'm gonna do that. No, you're not, because that is a 0.01% of the population that powerlift has achieved that. Realistically, you're going to be in the rest of it, who it's going to take you 5 years to be able to maybe even get to nationals. But yeah, presenting those things to those athletes to be like, look, it takes ages. Jorans and Joy, how long have they been doing it for? Look, just throw up their open powerlifting on the thing and be like, look at all these comps, look at when the first one was, look at where they are now. If you want to get to where they are, you're realistically going to have to do all of this. And if you don't want to, that's fine. That's also fine. There's a difficult mental shift from, let's say, winning Nats as a junior to then going into the open and not even getting to Nats.
Yeah.
The juniors are mad strong. To be fair, most of them will go straight into open Nats, but that can be mentally difficult. So teaching them to lose is probably going to be quite handy. Don't know how you necessarily teach people to lose. We learned that from rugby. We didn't win every game we played. We lost.
No, of course. Yeah.
So when we lose in powerlifting, we can kind of deal with that a bit better than some people. But yeah, I think that educational side of thing, but there's also the juniors who go into apprenticeships and have real jobs. They're probably the ones that don't quit, maybe.
No, they
have an earlier experience, don't they, of what life is.
That was the case for myself, and I think going and working is just the biggest indicator to how you will. Because obviously you can just bounce everything, and obviously there's that fortitude. And I think, if anything, I mean, obviously you combine every element here. Tough sport, obviously, maybe early on, then you go into powerlifting, obviously, because time, obviously, permitting, and with training sessions, you've got, because some people go into lifting weights because obviously don't have the time to obviously play team sports anymore. Working a tough job, it just fuels that long-term burning desire to really stay for the long game of it. And, I mean, I don't know how many people, obviously, who've done the university route, but I mean, again, I think there's a beautiful element where you just go, you just hit the bricks. It's such a old phrase, but literally hit the bricks or hit the dirt running, and that's it. You've just got to do that sometimes.
I think my last point would be, powerlifting isn't going anywhere.
No,
You
it's
know,
only
you can step away from it, but you can always come back. Just
of
because you may
course.
have like, you know, you say you know go through all the junior stuff, and you're like you come into the opens, and you're like, oh, I'm not even gonna get to like open nats. Oh, you're a bit disheartened. Maybe you stop for a bit, but then maybe you just pick it up later, or like you have a kid, and it's like, right, well, understandably, your priority should not be to powerlift. Like I
Yeah.
would discourage you putting that above your family. So go and be a parent when you're comfortable, when you've managed your time well. Come and do powerlifting again, like, or just train in the gym or something. Like you don't have to quit forever.
No.
Retiring from powerlifting, I think, is ridiculous because
Oh, it's silly. It's like it's as if you've done an entire lifetime of it. And I think to myself, like, fucking hell, like life can just happen. And then
yeah,
sometimes some people come back stronger. I mean, like, just obviously, I know I'm probably drawing this out way too long, but I remember um, uh, like Michael Paredes, who's
mm,
obviously in the 105s. I remember obviously seeing him compete at 105 juniors when I had my junior comp, and then hearing, well, he's going to be doing super training as well from his brother. And I thought to myself, like, right, he's come back. Fuck. It's just like, it's like, right. So a guy that I looked up to, and I'm like, now I'm competing against him. It's like, he's come back, obviously, to it. I think the last outing was 2024 Nats. And now I'm thinking, like, right, you're back now. Well, let's go then. Let's have it. There's a beauty in that when you just come back and he's even stronger. And you're like, Jesus Christ, like, what have we got coming for us? And I think that's just as again, priorities. It's so simple.
yeah, you can periodize life, like you can periodize training. Training, you may focus on strength for a bit, maybe focus on adding some size. Life, the same. Focus on your job, focus on training for a bit, maybe focus on your family. It can all be done.
Yeah, of course it can.